This is the Adidas Copa Pure 2.1 and Plus. Well, actually, it's probably more of a 1.5 than an actual 2, but what matters is if it's actually better. And in today's video, I'll tell you what's good and also not so good about the new boots, and also touch a bit on why this might be a bit of a blessing if you're sad that the Tiempo has ditched leather. Because as always, I'm JayMike, and this is my review of the Copa Pure 2.
The upper on the Pure 2 is, well, by and large, it's the same. It's fusion skin, meaning a super soft calf leather forefoot with a flexing mesh midfoot and tongue. The heel, though, has been updated.
And to many people, that update might also feel like an actual upgrade. See, we do get a bit more width and padding in the new Pure 2, which means that it's definitely a bit more comfortable and supportive in that very traditional, pleasant and cozy way where you feel the foam and the suede all around your heel. And given the fact that, the heel construction on the Pure 1 was one of my complaints with this higher heel tap that felt a little rough around the edges, so that they fixed it is a good thing. However, it does also feel a bit more solid and maybe a bit chunky, so I'm also gonna miss this slightly more snug and speedy feel on the old heel construction. But more on that later. Well, let's talk about the rest of the upper, which is, more or less at least, the same as on the last model. And just like back then, it just screams comfort! Because this calf leather forefoot here is, as you can see, it is ridiculously soft. And in my book, at least, up there with one of the easiest uppers to just step in and feel at home in right away. It's basically just very compliant with the shape of your foot straight out of the box. It is truly buttery soft right away. It's a bit like an old leather glove that you've just worn for years. That just fits in the way that only a leather boot can. And that's with calf leather, which, to be honest, is pretty impressive. The midfoot here is solid, I would say, and while it definitely feels a bit more firm and sturdy than last year's, which was really nice and almost stretchy, it does follow the shape of the foot pretty well and offers a bit of a feeling of, some sort of structure there. Now, the tongue is, as it was on the last model, kind of stretchy and has these, I'll call them wings, for lack of a better word, that wrap the top part of the foot, meaning that the tongue stays really nicely in place. And it's just a weirdly nice feeling, really. Now, as for lockdown, it does a little bit better than the first Pure because the lacing goes ever so slightly deeper, but still, when you make hard twists and turns, the foot tends to move a little bit inside the boot still. However, if you compensate for that by doing the runner's loop and wearing grip socks, I would say it's acceptable. It's not bad, but it's not amazing either. Size-wise, I did what I always do and went true to size with this, and width-wise, it was absolutely perfect. And also because of the heel construction, there is a little bit more width to play with, which means that wide-footed people can also join the party and get a pretty nice, accommodating fit. That's good.
Now, when it comes to the Laces Plus model, the Pure 2... hold on.
Yeah, voiceover Jay, you're right. The Pure Plus isn't laces anymore, because as you can see, Adidas have now added laces on top of this knitted tongue collar construction that is pretty similar to the laceless construction on the first Pure. And that also means that you have a more snug, tight fit, more modern feel in the heel, which, given the fact that the midfoot and the forefoot is more or less the same as on the Point 1, it makes the Plus feel a bit more like the speedy, fast alternative to the Point 1, which for someone like me is pretty good, if you prefer it a bit more snug. Oh, and by the way, if you miss the laceless boot, kinda sucks, but it doesn't mean that you can buy this and just take the laces out, because the Plus is not built for that anymore. So if you do, the lockdown will suffer a lot. So don't do it.
As for the touch, Adidas have gone with the same recipe as last year, aiming to give you an elegant but precise feel on the ball.
And it basically feels one-to-one with the way the last generation felt. You get this trademark softness that has a hint of this padded, refined feel to it as well. And yet the upper is still thin enough to make you feel close and relatively connected to the ball. It's probably best described as naturally, effortlessly elegant, where you have this pretty smooth but also slightly sticky sensation on the forefoot, and then a bit of a haptic print on the instep to give you a slightly textured sensation that's pretty well balanced without ever being too much. And given that the toe box is also relatively low and allows you to get under the ball, it only adds that nimble elegance. So it just feels easy on the ball, which for me was a nice little mental boost.
The outsole isn't rocket science at all and remains the same torsion frame as we saw in the first generation, which originally came from the Nemesis. So they've used it before.
And it's just solid. You got a pretty modern feel with a rather versatile stop pattern, a rock-solid midfoot, and decent flex in the forefoot. Is it also slightly boring to use the same tooling again? Well, yeah, it kinda is. But on the other hand, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So, it works. Well, mostly. Because here are 4 annoying things that you also need to know about. And the first is that when I make hard turns, I get a few pressure points right here, which went away after a few wears, so don't lose hope, but I had the same problem on the first generation. And the flexing mesh midfoot doesn't really match the softness of the forefoot here, at least not as well as it did on the first Pure. Is it a big problem? No, but you gotta know. And honestly, I'm a bit in limbo over the heel construction because while, yes, it is really comfortable, I also feel that it's just perhaps a bit too chunky and thick and it's just a lot, right? And I'd probably hope for something in between this and the heel construction on the old Pure. And yeah, of course, I could just go and buy the Pure 2 Plus, but then I have to pay 20 euros more because I like the snug fit. At least it's not 280 euros anymore.
But to be fair to the Pure 2, while the Plus appeals the most to me, both versions have a lot to offer and, in my book at least, easily squeeze into the very top tier of current leather boots on the market.
I really like what the Pure 2 does. It's not exactly rocket science, but I think it does this comfortable, elegant on the ball thing really, really well. And if you miss your Tiempo Legends in leather, these will give you the same modern, very comfortable leather feel with a hint of elegance on the ball as well, just like the Legends did. And I mean, for 230 or 250 euros, that's pretty solid. And if it sounds like something for you, well, as always, you can grab both boots from the link to Unisport store right over there. But not, of course, before you tell me what you think of the Copa Pure 2s in the comment section right down below. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel with the notifications on already, well, now is the time to do so. And with those words, we'll be signing off. I'm throwing the boot around. Cheerio.